All right, everybody, we're back. Dan Hutchinson and I are back at D Sweet Nation show. The last time we were on air was early February, where we interviewed the Davidson High School football team. And this was Dan's idea to do it this way, and I'm glad he came up with this concept. That's why I hired him. That's why I pay him the big bucks.
Yeah, everybody's doing it this way now. Yep, everybody's doing it this way.
Yeah, but it's good to be back. And I have a very, very special guest. And for me personally, I won't have bigger guests than the one I have today. That's just how I feel personally, because of the amount of respect I have for this guy. So allow me to introduce my brother from Potter Elementary School, who I met in 1982, in September 1982. He's been my friend ever since then, almost 40 years now. And he's also a high school classmate of mine at Flint Central High School, class of 1995. He's also the senior director of two podcasts back in Tennessee. Conversations with Myself with his son Xavier Hinson, which is my favorite show in the world, which is the reason why I'm the second best podcaster. I would never say that about anybody, but got to give credit where credit's due. Brent's the best, so is Xavier. And he has a new musical podcast called Crossing the Streams, which is really, really interesting. I never understand what they're talking about, but when they talk about certain artists, it's pretty impressive. Like Brett, man, that Peter Cetera one that Aaron came up with, you got he got you on that one, in my opinion. That was good stuff. But he's also one of the forefathers of a good band in Tennessee called Hinson and Hill, which we're going to talk about later on. He also graduated from the University of Tennessee at Martin in, I believe it was 1999. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Brent. I believe it was 1999. And he's also from the same town as WWE Hall of Famer Coco Beware, who some of the older people that are watching the show will know who I'm talking about. So without further ado, everybody give a good D Sweet Nation welcome to one of my best friends. He's my brother. I love him the same way that I love my children, man. I love Brett the same way. Everybody say hello to Brent Hinson.
Man, thank you guys so much for having me on this podcast. The surreal thing for me is just about a year ago, I'm sitting down to listen to your podcast, not knowing anything about podcasting. And here it is almost a year later, and I'm on two different podcasts. And the inspiration came from y'all seeing how it's done and listen to it and thinking this is a really cool platform to talk about whatever I want to talk about. So you guys served as my inspiration. I've told you that before when you were on Xavier and our podcast a couple months ago. Is you guys definitely hit the flame for me, and I was like, I got to do this. I got to try this. And it was a learning curve to figure stuff out. But man, you guys served as the inspiration for me, and you guys are doing a bang up job at D Sweet Nation. I love watching those shows. That Joe Ufinger show, I love it because Coach Ufinger, I had him as a teacher. Never had him as coach, but that was one of my favorite ones. And then, of course, the Randall Scott one because it's Randall.
Yeah, Dan met. I introduced Dan to Randall a couple of months ago. I just talked to Randy on the phone yesterday and told him that I was interviewing you, and he can't wait to watch the show, man. And like I said the last time that I talked to you, Brent, the fact that you would say that I inspired you in anything, no matter what it is, that's the best compliment that I've ever received in my life. Best compliment I've ever received.
Well, it's the fact that you guys took the initiative to do it, and I'm thinking like, why didn't I think of this? I'm a radio guy. Why didn't I think to start a podcast? And the fact that you guys took the initiative, and I'm like, well, now I can try this. I'm see what I can do. And I'm glad you guys started a podcast because it lit the flame for me to do it. And I enjoy it. It's a lot of work because I'm like doing two now, but it's a labor of love, and I funnel all my creative energy into that. So it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
Awesome.
Yeah, Dan, how you been? And how's Texas, Dan?
Texas is great, man. Texas is great. As everybody knows, in mid-February, I made the move to come down to Texas to pursue better work opportunities down here. And no sooner than I got down here, this quarantine thing hit and everybody was locked down. So it's kind of been a weird transition for me so far. You know, I haven't really been able to do much down here so far. So like literally a month after, well, not even 2 months, because it was down here was the day. Oh no, it was St. Patrick's Day. that they officially initiated the quarantine lockdown here.
Yep.
So it's been kind of a struggle so far, because everybody knows I came down here to pursue better work opportunities, but as soon as that quarantine lockdown hit, nobody's really hiring. People are work from home, so I got something in the works. Hopefully, it works out right now, but it's definitely a different process finding work and getting hired and going through the interview process and all that. So I'm hanging in there. Luckily, I got some really good friends down here that are taking good care of me, and I'm getting by.
Well, that's good. Okay, now, Brent, pretty much most of the country going through the quarantine days right now. And what have you been doing? How have you been? We know you've been working a lot, but what else have you been doing with the family to keep yourself busy and staying safe?
Well, of course, married to my wife, Mandy, and she's pretty hardcore about not letting me leave the house because, as you may or may not know, I'm sure you know, Ray, I have an autoimmune disorder. So if I get sick, I really get sick, like crazy, freaky sick. So she's, wanting to make sure that I stay in the house. And I don't really get out too much. So I really have been in this house for, it seems like the past month, not, trying to get out amongst the people. But it's given us a chance to kind of slow down a little bit because we're always on the go. It's funny. The preacher at our church just gave a sermon. It's like, we're always complaining about not having enough time to sit down and slow down. And now we have it. And the funny part is now that I have the ability to slow down, I'm still going fast. Like from sun up to sundown, I'm doing stuff. So I think that's just my nature. I wish it wasn't, but it's given us a chance to do some stuff with Xavier. We will play games. We've watched movies. We watched Brewster's Million the other night. I rented it on Amazon, and it wasn't my idea. Xavier asked about it, and I was like, "Sweet,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool."
And it's based on a book. I didn't even know that. Now he wants to read the book.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's a funny show. One quick, I want to give a quick shout out. Somebody that Brent and I know very well. She's one of our best friends. Since we're on the subject of quarantine and coronavirus, I want to give a quick shout out to our friend Stephanie Jackson, who goes by Stephanie Thomas now. She's been married a long time. She was stricken with the coronavirus disease about 3.5 weeks ago, and everything turned out okay. She's at home now, recovering. I think she's about 85 to 90%, and she's doing really, really good. So Brett and I are very thankful for that. So I want
she's
just,
one of our,
just a quick shout out to Stephanie.
Frontline workers. I mean, she's a nurse. She's out there amongst it. I mean, I'm here at home, so I'm away from a lot of people, but I mean, she's in the thick of it. So we've got to say thank you to all those people that are out there taking care of us.
Yeah. And, another thing, Stephanie really is a hero to me, even before the COVID-19, because when my dad was sick in 2012, like when he was in his last couple of months, Stephanie worked at Genesis Hospital, and she was going out of her way to check on him and doing things for him. She was doing a lot of stuff that she didn't have to do and update me all the time. So obviously I've never forgotten that. So she's always been my hero, even before all this, and she's even more of my hero now. So yeah, that's just a quick shout out to Stephanie, and we love her.
Isn't it cool how, like, as you get older and as you mature and you go through these stages in your life, you start to recognize those things that people do for you that you took for granted maybe when you were younger? Because that happens to me a lot.
Yeah,
just
definitely.
Now I'm just like, wow, I didn't pay attention to that before, and I feel horrible. And now I really take stock in it. And I'm like, thank you so much for what you did.
Yeah. And another thing, one of my buddies gave a nice compliment. Because he works in the medical field also, and somebody thanked him for everything he does, and he said something really, really nice. His name is Tim Craig. He said thank you. He said, I appreciate all the love. He said, but he said, I can't do all that without having gas in my car, food in my stomach. So I want to thank everybody who's working. And he basically was saying that everybody that's working is a warrior through this. That was a real nice thing to say.
Yeah. We'll from time to time we'll order out because there's still some restaurants open. They do the pickup, curbside pickup, and we try to do our best to take care of them, tip them heavily, and tell them thank you because they're out there, they're working amongst it, and here we are, bundled up in the house.
Yep, we're like that too. We order an Uber Eats a lot, and we make sure we take care of those people because how, it's just the way people are, for the most part, getting their food nowadays. You either you're surviving the grocery store, or you're ordering pickup, or you're using those delivery services. So take care
Just
of those people.
A quick side note here. I don't know what happened, but during this virus, it has made my wife an incredible cook. I mean, I don't know what happened. She's like, it's like over the top. Like she turned her hat backwards. She flipped the switch. And
she
turned
did
like
the Sylvester Stallone and
Sylvester Stallone on over the top, yeah.
And every night I'm like, I'm amazed these dishes that I'm getting. I'm like, this is great. So big thumbs up to Mandy for all the cooking she's been doing.
Hey,
yeah,
I'm kind of the same way. I've been cooking for my roommates quite a bit because, I'm here doing nothing and we have stuff in the house. So it's kind of out of necessity, I guess, because you can't go out to eat. So you're either ordering in or you're cooking. So we're doing that same thing. We're cooking a lot, trying new things. I'm actually doing the keto diet right now. So I've been, we've been experimenting with a lot of, keto dinners and recipes and stuff like that. So, everybody's got to try something new during this thing.
Do what you got.
I need to try something. Yeah, I need to try something, guys. I've been snacking and I'm not eating healthy at all, man. I eat lemon cookies every day, graham crackers, strawberry Pop-Tarts, and a bowl of Cheerios. I still take my vitamins in the morning, but I haven't been dieting or nothing, man. I need to get my act together.
So Ray, what have you been doing during this quarantine? And before you answer that, we should also take this opportunity to congratulate Ray, because he recently became a grandfather for the first time.
That's right.
So he's got a brand new granddaughter that he's having loads of fun with, posting all kinds of videos on Facebook. You can tell he's a proud papa. So other than that, what have you been doing, Ray?
I've pretty much been exercising the stay at home thing. If I'm not at home, I'm here at where my daughter lives and my granddaughter. I'm here or I'm there. So I've been kind of trying to follow the quarantine as best as I can. Obviously, I spent a lot of time with my granddaughter and stuff, and that's basically it, man. Been talking to you a lot about sports,
Yeah.
Really, man. I mean, I've just been staying at home and I haven't been doing anything. Just doing what I'm supposed to do.
Well, I kind of have a quick question for both of you guys. I guess I kind of posed it to Ray earlier. Is how are you handling sports being on pause? Because people are rabid about sports, especially baseball season starting up, and then the playoffs for hockey and basketball, and it all just comes to a screeching halt. How do you guys deal with that? Because I like sports.
Dan, you can answer first.
That's a great
Dan,
question.
you go first. I'm going to go second. I'm going to let Dan go first. I got something to say about that.
That's an awesome question, because that's exactly that's part of what we plan on talking about today. It's really weird. It's so weird not having sports on TV. As everybody knows, I'm a huge sports fan. So even I might not watch every sport on TV, but I'm the type of guy that if I can, I'm like, Sports Center in the morning is my news, right? Like I turn that on and I watch Sports Center, I watch Get Up, and I need that daily feed of sports information. And it's been really difficult. Everybody's finding things to talk about. NFL draft just happened and all these things are still happening. So there's stuff to talk about, but it's just not the same as having games on and being able to enjoy sports. When I moved down here, before I moved down here, my buddy and I talked about going to see, the Dallas I'm blanking on the name.
Oh, the XFL thing?
The Dallas XFL team, and we didn't get a chance to do that. And I was really disappointed in that. But, it sucks that there's no sports, but to me, there's a hidden gem in this whole thing is that, ESPN is doing a great job of playing old classic games, right? They're re-airing, old Monday Night Football games, old NBA playoff series. And that is, it doesn't quite make up for it, but it's a chance not only for us old guys to go back and relive these great games that we witnessed, but it's also a chance for a younger generation to see games that they didn't get a chance to see live. So at least there's that.
Well, and the radio station that I work at part-time on the weekend, they re-aired the Tennessee National Championship game from 1998, the one that
Yeah,
T.
it's
Martin
T. Martin.
won for him.
Yep.
Yeah, see, I always think that T. Martin got a bad rap. Like Peyton gets all the glory, and T. Martin, he's like an afterthought. But he won the national championship, so I'm always on Team T. Martin. That's just me.
I'm with you on that. I love T. Martin. I think he gets shortchanged also. Now, to answer your question, Brent, a couple of things for me. The fact that there isn't any, sports on now, we can't watch the Tigers and, stuff like that. I have to deal with this stupid Chicago Bulls Last Dance documentary that everybody keeps talking about. Like we didn't know Michael Jordan was a great player. Like we didn't know he didn't like Isaiah Thomas. Scottie Pippen had a migraine headache, this and that. I just get so sick of hearing that.
Yeah,
so I have to encounter that.
Lambier was trending on Twitter the other night, and I'm like, oh, yeah, they got to the Lambier episodes.
Yeah, and I agree with everything Lambier says. But so I got to encounter that. But there's something else that I've thought of since we haven't had any sports. Someone like myself who loves sports and loves music. I try to think, imagine if during this COVID-19, if we had to sacrifice our music, meaning you can't listen to music, there's no YouTube, there's no nothing kind of music. And I'm thinking to myself, man, would I rather live without sports or without music? Like where you can't listen or play music at all. And, I used to say I would sacrifice music, but I don't know if that's the case now, man. I'll probably have a different answer in the fall if Michigan's not playing football, because that's probably the only thing that would be sacred for me in sports is Michigan's football team. Mm-hmm. But and Brent, if I had to live without music, I don't think I could handle that. I think that would be worse than sports for me because I love my old school music.
Yeah, you know which side of the coin I fall on that. I mean, I'm listening to music all the time, and I like with my podcast I do with Aaron, I don't listen to new music as much. That's why we started doing it, so he could introduce me to new music. But I mean, I'm playing my guitars. I'm trying to do something because music is a huge part of my life, as you guys know.
Oh,
yeah. I don't think society could survive without people. Couldn't survive without music. It's people get inspiration from music. It'd be like a plot to a movie, sort of like a version of Footloose where music was illegal and nobody was allowed to play music or sing or listen to music. And in the end, music would end up triumphing, and we would think, oh, that's just a stupid idea. We gotta have music. There's no way. As much as I love sports, I would never be able to go without music. I could deal without having sports over.
The common thing between music and sports is it's a communal thing. We all kind of relate and we all rally around the common themes of both of those things. So
yeah, not everybody likes sports, but everybody likes music.
Yeah.
Yeah, music is one of the most powerful things ever, man, because when I listen to music from when I was a teenager, it always makes me feel good. It's impossible to not feel good after I listen to old music. But that's like what Brent listened to Pearl Jam. He can't help but feel good if he's listening to Pearl Jam.
And we just did an episode on our podcast where I went back and listened to some old Temptation songs, and I listened to Ball of Confusion for the first time in years, and I was listening to the lyrics, and I'm like, man, the world has not changed since this song was written. The world is still a ball of confusion. So, I mean, it's kind of neat to see how it's cyclical. Things come right back around.
Yeah. Brent, speaking of music, damn things. Speaking of music, Brent, the next time that you guys are in town, whenever that is, I kind of like my karaoke now, man. I'm a big karaoke dude now. I know that kind of shocks you. And when you were talking
about videos of this karaoke, you keep telling me about this karaoke. Why? There should be videos somewhere.
I've seen a live rendition of "Going to Kansas City" by Mr. Ray Ascencio, and it was top notch.
Yeah, there's a couple older songs that I like to sing. Like if I'm at a place where there's people in their 60s and 70s just getting out, I'll sing Kansas City. I like "Life Could Be a Dream" by the Crew Cuts. I like "Chantilly Lace" by the Big Bopper. I sing that kind of stuff. I tend to play to the crowd. Laura Ball is quite the karaoke singer too now. I kind of got her singing some Whitney Houston stuff now. But I'll shock you with that, Brent, the next time you're in town. Now, speaking of music, Brent, I want to talk about Hinson and Hill. Okay, I want to know. First of all, I want you to introduce the guys, like the names of the members of the band, and when did you guys get started with this band?
So the whole thing kind of came together. It's a really cool story. My cousin Jody bought his house in the middle of nowhere. It's in a little town in Tennessee. It's Kenton, Yorkville area, literally the middle of nowhere, no neighbors nearby. And he said, I want to have a backyard music festival. He said this in 2009. I was like, sure, whatever, you're crazy. And fast forward several years, in 2016, he's like, dude, I'm doing it. We're going to all play individual sets, and we're going to invite people. We're going to have food and drinks. We provide the food for free. We have a kegerator out there. It's all free. People just come. If they want to donate, they can, just whatever. And people, it's like Field of Dreams. People came, and we filled up his backyard, and we played music, and we've done it every year since 2016. I'm not sure if we'll get to do it this year, unfortunately. But out of that little music festival in his backyard, all of us that played individual sets, we said, why don't we all come together and join forces and be a band? And so that's kind of what happened. And we came together and started playing music as the Hinson Hill Band. And we don't charge, to play anywhere, because we figure we're not good enough to charge anybody. We just want to go out there and have fun. And we thought, if we're going to go out there and have fun, we're going to raise some money. So when we play, whatever money that people want to give us, we donate it somewhere. We always pick a different charity or different local organization. So we've given to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Northwest Tennessee, to Helping Hand Ministries, just whatever. We try to give back to the community by doing something we love. And I've been doing it with those guys for the past 3-4 years. And I'm so thankful that I'm able to do it with 3 of my cousins. Jody Hinson was the founding member. We do it at his house. Jeremy Hinson, who's about a month younger than I am. And then another cousin of mine, Chad Davis. Oddly enough, my personal physician, Dr. Selena Dozier, is the lead singer in the band. And
Cool.
she's in the band with her brother, Sean Parnell, and then also Big Al Leatherland on bass guitar. So it's just a chance for us to get together and have fun. And we play cover songs, and we just have fun. That's it, man.
That's cool. Dan, have you ever watched any of Brent's videos where he's playing the guitar and singing the acoustics guitar?
Unfortunately, I have not. No.
He get the guy's a natural, man. I mean, when he was growing up, he was like the best trumpet player in the city for like many, many years. And then he's, started playing the guitar, and he's got the good voice. I mean, what more can I say, man? This guy does it all, man.
I consider myself a hack. There are a lot of people that are better than I am, but I do like to just goof off and tinker around. I do have to correct you. Monderell Ross was the best trumpet player in the city of Flint.
Mr. Ross?
Monderell Ross. You remember him?
Mr. Ross?
Monderell.
Is that Mr. Ross?
He was a student. He was our age. He was a year older than us.
Thinking of Daryl Ross, English teacher. I do remember Monderell Ross. He was the best trumpet player? Better than you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Much better.
Okay, well, wow, he must have been really good then. For him to be as good as you. He wasn't better than you. He was as good as you.
No, he was better.
Yeah. Now, Brent, I think it was during your quarantine episode with you and Xavier. You guys said that you had a concert, an upcoming concert that obviously you had to cancel. And I think you spoke of a couple different possibilities, whether you're going to just postpone it or you're going to do something like this where you do kind of a stay-at-home concert. Have you guys made a decision on that?
Yeah, actually we did. So one thing I learned out of this, so whenever we play a concert, I make a poster, a show poster, and you can't really see it, but it's back there on the wall.
Yep, we see it.
Yeah.
I know where he's going with this.
I hung it up before the actual show. Don't ever do that because I jinxed myself. So, we had to postpone it. We are going to play it eventually, but what we ended up doing is I got together, we had a group conference call, and I said, record yourself playing a song individually, upload it to Google Drive or whatever. And I took all those individual videos and I compiled it. I called it my version of The Last Waltz by Martin Scorsese, because I created a 1-hour online concert of all these individual videos, and we put it together and we premiered it on Facebook. And it was, we played songs with our kids. We played songs solo. It was a really cool thing to put together. We had a lot of people that rallied around it. I think looking at the analytics on Facebook, we reached like 1,400 people, which for us is amazing. So it was a lot of fun to put together, and we want to do something similar to that, hopefully sometime soon. But it was a lot of work. I mean, it was a labor of love.
Oh, I imagine.
Okay. Well, hey, Brent, before Dan gets into his Q&A session with you, which eventually I'll end up turning it over to Dan, one more thing I wanted to talk to you about. Man, I've been waiting to ask you about this. This is something Laura Ball and I have been talking about for like 5 years. We think this is like the coolest thing ever. I want to know from you, I want to hear it from you. If we could go back to like, let's say like the late 90s or whatever. Let's just assume that no one was away to college. Say everybody was still living in the same hometown. And like, and I'm going to give some names here, okay? It would be me, you, Stephanie, Aaron, Becky, Jenny Perry, Laura Hope, and Chris Herrick. If we could be like in Hawaii and have like a real world season with us, how do you think that would turn out? And how, like how long would we be able to go before we start driving each other nuts? Or would we drive each other nuts on the first day? So because between me, Jenny, and Becky, that's a lot of drama between us three.
Yeah. So we're talking about, this is our mentalities in the late 90s.
Yeah. Real world. We have to live together on the island for 3 months.
Yeah, because I had a low tolerance for stuff. I'm much more patient now than I used to be. So, man, I think it would have been explosive. I think, oddly enough, Hope and probably Chris would be the most chill ones, and Laura too.
Mm-hmm.
I think Stephanie would be kind of the mediator out of all things.
Yes.
I think, yes, Becky and you and Jenny Perry would be the ones that would flare up. And I think Aaron would
stir in the pot. Yep.
I think Aaron would be in there kind of like chill for a while, and unless you pushed her buttons, and then she'd blow up and we'd have some crazy fights. So that's an interesting concept. I never even thought about that.
Laura and I talk about that all the time. And I even told her, I said, hey, you never know. I said, maybe when we're our mid or late 50s, maybe we could do something like that later in life when our kids are grown and, we have free time. I don't know. But I just thought that would be the way that I pictured it. I agreed with everything that you just said. But the way that I picture you at the real world house, I could picture you like when we're in the living room, me and Jenny or whoever arguing with each other. I could just picture you on the couch with your guitar in your hand, just shaking your head like, why did I agree to this crap? I knew this was going to happen. I could totally see you doing that. Like, these guys are never going to grow up.
As I sit there and I listen to people, and then after a while, I'll hit a point where I'm just like, all right, I'm done with it. And that's when I get hot. And then that's when I start, I can take stuff to a certain point, and then I'm like, all right, it's got to end. And we're going to put a stop to it.
Yes. Dan, that's one thing about Brett is he definitely speaks his mind. He don't cuss and all that stuff, but he'll speak his mind and let you know when you're getting on his nerves or if you're going too far.
I try not to cuss. This is a funny story. Mandy and I worked at a TV station before Xavier was born. And because the newsroom gets heated sometimes, they always said that, and Mandy was a producer, they always said that Xavier's first word was going to be an expletive because of all the profanity that was in the newsroom. But once you have kids, you dial back your words. So that's kind of how we are around here. Now, I heard a lot of that stuff growing up. I mean, that's just, I don't know. Is that how it was around your house? I mean, it's a blue collar town, Flint, and things are different. I live in a small rural town now.
Yeah, that's definitely how it was around my house. Not only my parents, but my grandmother. She's like, I don't want to say a hillbilly, but country bumpkin from Alabama. So she gets frustrated easily. And with my grandpa, it was always F word, Bill, F word. Like my grandpa was kind of a goofball. He was serious, but a goofball. So she would drop F bombs all the time, and when she got frustrated with him, and I'm a pretty cool and calm person for the most part, but that's how my kids know that I'm serious. Like if I drop an expletive, talking to them, that's like, okay, Dad's serious now. He just swore. It's time to listen now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dan, one thing about Dan and his kids, man, Dan's got real good kids, man. Just like the way Xavier is, man. His kids are the same way, man. As a matter of fact, his daughter, Danny, how old is she? 7 or 8, Dan?
She's 8. Yeah, she's 8.
She held, when you watch that Davison football podcast, she's the one that's controlling the camera. Randy taught her how to do the camera for that day. She's the one. She kind of like worked that episode. They're really really nice. They love Dan. You can tell Dan did a good job. Dan and his ex-wife did a good job with all them kids, man. Both you guys, man. All four of them kids are good kids.
Thank you, Ray.
Yep. I was getting ready to ask Brent. I was getting ready to ask Brent something. I can't remember my train of thought. Dan, I told you I wasn't going to talk too much.
Well, Brent, I'll ask you guys during this quarantine. Like, I know I've been watching a ton of TV. Right? It's just like for me, it's like you get in this rabbit hole of you put on some show and you just binge watch it. Like I've watched new stuff. I've gone back and watched old stuff again. What's some of the stuff you guys are watching? And Brent, I would think this would be an opportunity for you and Xavier to maybe do some kind of a movie marathon of some sort, right?
Well, and we had talked about that in our last podcast. Other than Brewster's Millions, of course, we watched the Heavenly Kid. I don't know if you ever saw that one. It was from
oh my God, Brent! I watched that 2 weeks ago again. Oh my goodness!
It's on Amazon Prime, so we watched that a couple of nights ago. And then
my God,
we started to watch Big Fish, which is one of those father-son type movies, and we haven't finished it yet. So that's on our list of things to do to finish that. I personally, I finished up Ozark, the third season of that.
Yeah,
and then every night at dinner, we sit down here lately, though, with the past week or so, we'll sit down and watch 1 or 2 episodes of Lock and Key on Netflix. Like all three of us will sit down and watch it. So we've been doing that as a family. And of course, I have a very strange love for murder shows on the ID network. I don't know why, but I put on my headphones at night and it soothes me to sleep. I'm not a killer. I'm not a serial killer, I swear, but I love those shows.
I know one thing that Brent likes that I like: wrestling shoot interviews. That's what I've been doing through quarantine. Jim Cornette, I probably listen to him more than anybody. But yeah, shoot interview. Who are some of your favorite, like shoot interview people, Brent?
Whenever Sunny or Tammy Stitch is on there, she's always like very like she shoots from the hip, so I like watching some of her stuff. Lenny Poffo is so weird because he's like a beggar and a hanger-on to Randy, and he thinks that he had a higher position in life. So watching his are funny, and of course you can't go wrong with the Honky Tonk Man because Wayne Ferris knows how to do a shoot interview.
Yeah, Eric Bischoff has some interesting things to say about the Honky Tonk Man. But no, Honky is a good shoot interview. And another thing, I remember what I was going to say before I went off into La La Land when we were talking about the cussing thing. Where I learned my cussing from, and Brent knows this, you guys got to remember 95% of my entire family are full-blooded Mexican people. So obviously, and we like our alcohol. So that's kind of where I learned my cussing. But the one thing that I am proud to say about myself when it comes to cussing, I know when to cuss. You know what I'm saying? Like I won't be around like little kids where I'm saying expletives, and I won't be around anybody's parents. Like if Dan and I were hanging out and it's just me and him in the car, you'd be lucky if I say 10 plain English words our entire trip. Every other word is a cuss word. So I know when to cuss and when not. So that's what I was going to say earlier.
But you become, I think the older you get, you become cognizant of what you're saying and who you're saying around, like you said, with children and things like that. And I don't know, I tried, it's a work in progress every day of trying to become better. And I'm still not there yet, but every day is a new day to try to get, further along. So,
yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Well, we're going to go to a session here. I'm pretty sure Dan has some questions prepared. I'm going to turn it over to you guys and let you guys exchange here. And Brent, kind of like the way you did in your show, I'll be here for clarification purposes, just in case you guys need me. So I'm going to turn it over to Dan for a little while, and he's got some questions for you, Brent. Okay?
I'm a tad worried about this.
Don't be worried. Don't be worried. Okay. They're softball questions.
I'm worried. I don't know what Brent's going to say about. Hey, I'm worried. Shoot.
Well, my first question is kind of a lighthearted question. As you've known Ray for a long time, has he always been the stubborn mule that he is now?
I would say that he has strong opinions, and he's going to let you know about it, and I think I respect that. He's going to tell you where he stands. He's not going to sugarcoat stuff. And I think He was that way in high school, and I think he's probably that way now. Um, that's my memory of Ray growing up, is that he was always very assured of himself. At least that's the perspective I had when I was in high school. Like, I didn't have a ton of self-confidence when I was in high school. And I looked at somebody like Ray, and he was just like, he beamed confidence. And I wish I
Yeah.
had the confidence that Ray had in high school.
Oh, Ray's no shortage of confidence when it comes to Ray, though. But I've noticed since I've been working with him, I've learned that once Ray puts his mind on something, or he's formed an opinion about a certain subject, there's no moving him off of it, right? There's no moving him off that opinion, regardless of whether it's a fair opinion or not. There's no moving him off of it. That's one thing I've learned working with him.
And I think you gotta take a stand somewhere. You got to come down on a side, and that's not teeter-totter. The pee or get off the pot. That's kind of how I look at things,
Right. So I know you're not a huge sports guy, and I know you've been in Tennessee for a long time. Like, as far as sports go, when you do watch sports, where do your sports allegiances lie more? Are you still a fan of Michigan, Detroit sports, or have you like bought into Tennessee and Nashville sports?
Man, I still harken back to Michigan sports. Like, I was the black sheep of the family. I like Michigan State. And I think that I probably did it out of spite because everybody else liked Michigan. And I'm like that all the time. Like, if somebody likes something, I'm going to like the other thing just because. So I like Michigan State. But I like both teams now. I still follow Michigan and Michigan State when they play, and I'll watch games on Saturdays. I was a Bad Boys fan back in the late 80s, early 90s. I don't have ESPN on my cable package, so I'm not able to watch the Chicago Bulls thing. But I would love to see that, because those times with the Pistons and the Lakers, those were some awesome times. I love growing up watching that. Tigers fans, when I saw K-Line passed away,
Oh, man.
I was just torn up inside, because I remember watching all those old broadcasts. I think it was on Channel 4 out of Detroit. And that was a soundtrack of my childhood. My dad would watch that. You remember Past Sports? Remember that channel?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And my dad used to watch Tiger games like every single night. And so those commentators are just constantly going through my head. But once I moved down here, like, I'm not a huge Titans fan. Like, when I go to the Titans game, I go with my Lions gear on. I got to see the Lions play the Titans at Nissan Stadium, and I knew one of the photographers who worked for a TV station, and I got a field pass. So he let me go on the field pregame, and I'm walking by, and there's Kelvin Johnson, there's Ndamukong Suh, and I've got free reign. So it's really cool for me to do that. I haven't been to a Grizzlies game. I'm just not into that. Tennessee, I'm not. Tennessee fans are kind of weird. But my cousin graduated from the University of Auburn, so I've been kind of an Auburn fan by proxy for the past 10 or 15 years.
Okay.
What about that? What is that? Bristol Speedway? What's that big racetrack in Tennessee?
Bristol Motor Speedway. Yeah.
It's over on East Tennessee. I've never gotten into NASCAR or anything like that for some reason. It's just
if you've never been to a NASCAR race, I encourage you to go to at least one NASCAR race in your life. A buddy of mine and I used to go to MIS every year and camp in these big decked out buses, modified buses in the infield at MIS. We would go down there on Thursday. We would come home till Sunday night after the race. Man, it is so wild. Such an experience. If you've never done it, I highly encourage. You don't have to be a fan of racing to appreciate the atmosphere at one of those races.
Well, and part of the problem with me now, and I use this as an excuse a lot for many things, is that I don't like to get out amongst big crowds anymore, especially with my stomach conditions, because I'm like, what if I got to go to the bathroom? Because I have Crohn's disease, and so that's you messes up with your stomach system. So my cousins were always trying to get me to go to an Auburn game. They're like, you got to go see Auburn play, and I'm like, I can't, even the Big House down in Michigan, I've heard so many cool stories about how you go into the game and you're sitting in one seat, and then everybody stands up, and then you're like all the way down the aisle because everybody's moving around so much. So I've heard some really cool stories, but I'm usually an armchair watcher nowadays.
Okay. All right. Have you and Xavier, I don't know, this is one of my favorite like movie series out there, but I'm a big Fast and the Furious fan. Have you guys watched any of the Fast and Furious? Maybe you guys might want to think about taking this time to run through the Fast and the Furious catalog of movies.
It took me almost 2 years to get him to sign on to Star Wars. So I mean, I had to work at him to do that. No, we haven't done that one yet. He's been wanting to get into Lord of the Rings, and I haven't
that's a
watched
good
that.
one.
So there are some things that he wants to get into that we haven't gotten into yet. But that's the cool thing about having kids, is that you get to introduce them to all these things that you love, and you get to relive your childhood. And like, it's almost like you get to experience those things you love over again through their eyes. So that's really cool for me to experience that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I definitely would suggest Lord of the Rings over Fast and the Furious. As good as Fast and Furious is, Lord of the Rings is a class in itself. And I would recommend watching the 3 Hobbit movies first, and then the 3 Lord of the Rings movies, because The Hobbit is the prequel to those.
Right.
Yeah.
And see, they all love Mandy and Xavier love Harry Potter, and it's not my thing. We went to Universal Studios, and they have Harry Potter Land, and everybody was like ooh and ah, and I'm like, none of this means anything to me. So.
I got a question for Brent. I have a question for Brent. Speaking of movies, do you remember what mine and your favorite movie was back in the mid to late '80s? It was our personal favorite movie.
Hey man, if it's not European Vacation, then I don't know.
Yes. Oh, Dan, listen, man. When that movie came out, European Vacation, Brent and I had class together. Every single day, we used to recite that whole movie, and we used to crack each other up every day. Every time that movie comes on, I always think of Brent.
And what's funny about that movie, it's rated PG-13, and there's a woman that shows her breast in that movie.
Yeah, I know.
That PG-13?
I know.
It's crazy,
I know.
the rating system, like between then and now. But hey,
yeah,
it was good for me when I was 12 years old. So thumbs up rating system.
Oh, man. Hey, you know what, man? Speaking of, when we were talking about Hinson and Hill earlier, I thought of an interesting idea for the future, man. Maybe something you guys can think about. If you guys ever do like a musical video, and let's say like in the video, like you guys are at a honky tonk bar, and you wanted to use me as a prop, where I'm kind of like that jerk. I come in the bar and I'm like, maybe I got my arm around somebody's wife, and somebody wants to put me in my place where they punch me and throw me through a table. I'm all up for it. You want to throw me through a juke, because I can take bumps.
Yeah, let me write this down. I got to make sure that
I will drive, Brent. I will drive to Tennessee if you guys ever wanted to use me for something like that, where one of your guys puts me in my place in a video.
We've got an extra that will put you in there, and we'll rough you up. No, actually, you'd probably take all of this out.
Yeah. I can take that abuse.
Can I
can take bumps. I gotta look, man. I don't know if you can see it. I got a scratch on my head now, man. I'm always marked up. I can take bumps, but yeah, I just wanted, before I forgot, I wanted to mention that. Honky tonk bar. That's what they call bars down there, Dan. Honky tonk. I learned that.
I know what a honky tonk is. I'm a fan of country music.
There's a whole there's a whole different vernacular when you're in the South, because if you say something and someone looks at you and says, "Bless your heart," that means you're an idiot.
Oh, okay. It's kind of It's kind of like
you say something stupid, they're like, "Oh, bless your heart."
Oh, bless his heart.
Yeah. Well, another thing, Brent wouldn't know this. This is something only like single guys would know. Dan will understand this. When you pour your heart out to a woman, and all she says is, "Oh, thanks," that means she ain't interested.
That's the
she ain't interested.
You're in the
thanks.
You're in the friend zone.
Yeah, the friend zone. Yep.
Oh man.
Dan, you got some more questions for him?
I do. So Brent, I know you were in the band in high school, correct?
I was in the Flint Central Indians marching band, correct.
So I'm assuming you got to be in the stands or within eye shot of Ray playing sports quite a bit, correct?
Yeah. Every game.
Do you have a maybe a favorite or a standout memory of being in those stands, seeing Ray on the field?
This is going to sound horrible, Ray, and I don't mean it that way, but when I was in high school, I was oblivious to, I'm watching the games on the field, but then I'm also up there with my trumpet, and we've got to play songs in between. So I don't have like a specific play. I just remember games. That year that y'all, went on your run and went undefeated. That was a magical year because we got to go to just about all the games. Just being in Atwood Stadium, that turf had to suck, right?
Yes, that was the old worn out turf. And then when we graduated, that's when they put the new turf on after we graduated.
But the things
We're
I
playing
remember
on
the most,
pavement, basically. We're basically
I
playing on
remember it being
pavement.
really rough.
Yeah.
But being at Atwood, that was just a really cool environment for me. My parents went to Central. They went to games at Atwood. You know, my grandfather went to Central. So that's why I hated when it shut down, because there's a lot of history there for me. But as far as I have memories of going to football games, but not any one specific memory. Just, the different games that we went to. I remember Flint Southwestern beat us one year. It might have been sophomore year.
Sophomore year, yeah.
Yeah, and like there was a big whoop-de-doo. Like everybody got into a fight afterwards. The band.
Dan knows about that. Yeah, because we talked about that with Mike Fordham on the show. Dan knows about that.
It's bad when the marching bands are getting into fights too. We have no room.
That's the way it was in the city back then. Yeah, the marching bands that's the way they were. The drum majors and all them. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But you have to understand, I have no athletic ability. I tried out for the baseball team twice and got cut twice. So that's when I realized, hey, maybe do something else, Brent.
All right. Well,
but I did. My goal in high school, I wanted to get a letter so bad to wear, letterman's jacket. So I ended up going out, and I was part of the swim team, and I got my letter there. So, and that was hard work. I had to bust my tail. Swimming is not easy. It's not as easy as you think it would be, but
no.
Well, let me say this though. About the sports thing, and Brent. I know Brent didn't play a lot of sports, and I know he said he wanted to get a letter, but he was like one of the top people in our class. All academic, National Honor Society. So like that right there, like he was like, that's more inspirational than any kind of sports that any of us could have played. Brent was very intelligent, man. Him and Tim Weston and all other friends. So yeah, I wish that I could have been like that.
I still tell people down here that I went to a city school, and people in the city schools went on to Big Ten schools. I remember Mr. Hafner one time stopped me in the hallway, and he was like, "You're really tall. Why aren't you playing basketball?" And I'm like, "Because I have no athletic ability, and everyone else is really good." So I think if I would have gone to school down here, maybe I would have gone into sports differently. But it's still really competitive down here. Football in Tennessee is just as hardcore as it is in Texas.
Yeah. My daughter Sydney is the same way. She's tall. She's getting ready to turn 16, and she's about 5'8", 5'9". She wears like a size 9.5, 10 women's shoe. She's been tall all her life. She's always been the tallest kid. And I'm like, we just please play some basketball or volleyball or something, right? Like, if you put you on the basketball court, you'd be really good. You're very tall. She's total opposite. She's an artsy, creative type. Although she does play tennis now. She's played tennis the past 2 years. So she's getting into that. But she's a painter. She wants to be a producer when she grows up. She wants to do like TV and movie producing. She's very creative. She's got her own YouTube channel.
It sounds that's just like Xavier, because he's really tall and he's into creative stuff like that too,
Yeah. Well, speaking of memory, and I don't know if you know this, I'm sure you do, but when it comes to sports, not so much logging into things, but when it comes to sports, Ray's got a memory like a steel trap, right? Like every sports memorized is cataloged in a file system in that dude's brain. When did you know this? When did you ever realize this? At what point did you realize this about Ray?
I didn't realize this until he was on our podcast a couple months ago, and he named off something from our little league, and I was like, "How do you remember that?"
Yeah,
I had forgotten all about that. He really does. I guess if it's something that you're passionate about, you just retain that information. I kid you not. I walked in the kitchen twice today. Could not remember why I walked in there, but I can tell you when an album came out and what singers were on it, what the singles were. So it's just weird.
It's the same thing.
You remember.
Yeah. We have sports conversations all the time. It even, on our podcast and stuff like that, we'll talk about a certain subject. The other day we were on the phone talking about all this Bulls Pistons things and, some of the old playoff games. And he's like, "Oh, nope, that was game 4. And the Pistons won that game and the score was this, and I remember in the third quarter so and so fouled out, and it's like he remembers all these details, and it's only one or two people that I've ever met personally that has a memory like this. One of our other buddies named Ryan, he has kind of like this photographic memory where he sees something or reads something once and he'll remember it. Like it's never leaving his brain.
Well, that's why I think I like the Andre Weathers episode, because you guys were talking about specific games and specific years 20 years ago, and you're like, oh yeah, that was third down in the third quarter, and you're gonna go, and I'm like, how do they remember this stuff?
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I mean, you guys were on point. That's why I enjoyed listening to that one.
If you've never seen him, I'm sure there's video clips out there on the internet. It's Sean McVay, the head coach of the LA Rams.
Yeah. I saw that on Real Sports.
He has a memory like that where the reporter will ask him, "Oh, was this date, this game, third quarter with 2 minutes?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, we ran this play. Well, that was this game, and it was 2 minutes left." And it was just, it's uncanny how people like that can recall details like that. And Ray's one of those people. He's got this gift of like remembering these details. And, you know, I watched the same games that he watched when we were kids, and he remembers 99% more details than I do.
Well, here, you know, I'm gonna kind of blow my own horn just a little bit on that one. It's kind of like some of our past podcast shows that Dan and I have done. Like as I watched this Last Dance documentary with the Bulls, I haven't watched all of it, but I've caught bits and pieces of it. People are talking about like when the Pistons walked off the court, and now they're talking about, you know, when Boston did that to us. I mentioned that about 3 months ago on our podcast. Nobody knew what I was talking about.
Yep.
Now they're talking about it now. What else did I mention? Remember, Dan, I talked about before the Bulls eliminated us. Remember I told you Michael Jordan got in front of a camera and said all that nonsense about
the comments he made to the
now
media.
Now they're talking about it, and everybody on Facebook, they're all experts on it now. And you know, there's two things that God blessed me with. You know, I have a good memory and I can type really, really fast because my mother was a county clerk, and me and my sisters could type like my friend Marty thinks I'm a homosexual. Like when he watches me type, he thinks I'm gay. He said, "Ray, not that I don't have anything against gay people. It's not what this is. I'm just saying he has told me several times, Ray, any man that can type like that is definitely, you're definitely gay." I didn't mean that as a
no. Don't forget your karaoke skills too, Ray.
I don't know if I have karaoke skills, but I certainly love singing karaoke. Like if I'm at the bar all night singing karaoke, I'll sing 6 or 7 songs. It's just I love singing karaoke. I would love to sing with Brent someday.
And you know, before we had Xavier, Mandy and I used to go out and we used to do karaoke nights on the weekends, and we used to get up and just goof off and have a lot of fun. And then, you know, you get to be a parent, it's time to stay home. That's what we do.
Yep.
Well, you know, we know you're a big music fan, Brent. And I kind of threw Brent this question a little earlier, so we have a little time to think about it. But if you could pick one song to describe Ray as a person, what would it be?
I don't know if it's a song to describe Ray. It's more or less the one that I was thinking of. The song I think of when I think of Ray.
Probably "Loser" by Beck. Probably is what he's going to say.
No. I kind of went this route. The song that when I hear it and I instantly think of Ray. Now I've got two. One's funny, and then one's funny but serious. So one is La Bamba, because we used to have this conversation in high school that Ray used to say he loved La Bamba, and I used to say have this conversation. But the other one is Holiday Road from Vacation movies.
Lindsey Buckingham. Yes, sir.
That song, from your favorite movie, right?
I'm always thinking of Ray.
Yep.
Even when I went to Disney, I went to Epcot Center, and I tried on a beret, and my first thought was Ray and those silly berets in European Vacation. So
yeah,
we're closely tied to that.
Isn't it funny how music can do that? Music, that's always been with the way with me. It's like music or songs bring back so many memories, right? It seems like in my life, I've always had a song attached to a very specific memory, right? Whether it's like an ex-girlfriend or some kind of life experience, or, you know, I was in, you know, Hawaii in the Army when I heard this song, or, you know, the song can bring back all these memories that you've forgotten about.
Yeah, that's what Dick Clark, I think that's his famous quote is music is a soundtrack to your life. You know, you can
Yeah.
put on a song and you're like, oh, I remember what I was doing when I first heard this song. Or, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's two songs that remind me of Brent. Now that we're on that subject, one of them is Holiday Road. I mean, that's obvious because that's our movie. The other song that reminds me of Brent, it's only because I've known for a long time that this is his favorite band. It's the song When I Hear Black by Pearl Jam. That's my personal favorite Pearl Jam song. I mean, Brent probably has a different favorite Pearl Jam song, but every time I hear that, I think of Brent because I love that song. Like, if you ever see me like list my top 10 favorite songs of all time, 9 of them will be like rap from like the 80s and 90s. I'll have some R. Kelly in there, and then I'll have Black by Pearl Jam. That's like the odd song out of the 10, but I think of Brent when I hear is that the 10 album?
Yeah.
Brent?
And it's funny.
Yeah, when I listen to that. Yeah.
It's funny you bring that up because our next episode of Crossing the Streams, not that I'm trying to do a cheap plug here, but we're covering Pearl Jam this coming Monday, and I actually recount what one of my favorite Pearl Jam songs is, and I try, like on that one Xavier episode, I literally was breaking down crying. I try not to do that, but I almost did that again on this episode because the way the song ties in personally for me. And I actually, Cypress Hill is featured on that episode as well, because Cypress Hill did a song with Pearl Jam. I don't know if you know that or not.
Nope, didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
That's part of the episode on Monday, so you guys can check out Crossing the Streams.
Okay.
Again, I'm trying not to cheap plug here.
No, plug
that's
away.
kind of like that's my life here lately. Is I've been doing promos and being on social media, and like doing a podcast is work.
Okay.
Especially if you want to get people to listen and follow. Like, I've been busting my tail for this podcast. The one we
do our podcast. Dan does all the work on our podcast. This is what I do. I just talk. Dan does all the work. He goes through all the stress.
The editing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
The podcast that I do with Xavier, I do that. I've said it in a podcast before. I do that right now for me, and it's for him later. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie My Life with Michael Keaton and Nicole Kidman. And my situation isn't like this at all. But like he has like months to live. And so he takes a camera and he's trying to tell his unborn child all the things about life before he dies. And I kind of like equate that. I'm not dying or anything, but it's like, I want to make sure that I get this advice out to him so he knows the things that I want to tell him before I forget or I'm senile.
Yeah. Ray and Xavier are in the same boat. Ray and Xavier, Ray always tells me, he's like, hey, I just show up and talk. Dan handles all the other stuff. I just show up and talk. I'm the talent, he says.
Xavier said that. He worded it perfectly. Xavier said, I'm the talent, you're the work. And I agreed with him because in my podcast, I'm the talent, Dan's the work. Even though, no, Dan's great, man. Dan actually has a little fan base. I have like a lot of friends that are very complimentary of him.
So maybe
you compliment him for. I'm the one that compliment Dan all the time.
Maybe you've said it before and I just missed it, but how did you guys come into contact? How did you guys meet and become friends?
We actually became friends at a house party. We had a mutual friend. Her name was Julia, and we had a mutual friend. And I had just moved back from Louisiana, just moved back to Michigan, and started hanging out with her and her friends. And she had a house party, and Ray just happened to show up. And we just, had a beer together, and we like clicked instantly, and we've been friends ever since. And if we weren't talking in person, we did a lot of communicating on Facebook. Ray started this sports question of the day page on Facebook, and him and I were very, very active on that. So that's kind of how we kept in touch. And when Ray, fast forward 10 years, Ray decided to start doing this podcast. He had it on Spotify, and he just reached out to say, hey, I need anybody with technical know-how. I need some help. And I was the first one to respond, and we went from there.
Yeah. Awesome. And I'm going to tell you that, Dan, I'm glad that he wanted to do it because people tell us all the time that with our different personalities, because like I'm more of the kind of the loud, high energy, say anything kind of guy. Dan is the more, calm, very articulate. People like the way we kind of like opposites attract, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And the ironic thing about
the type thing.
Yeah.
The ironic thing about the way that I met Dan like he said, it was like 11 or 12 years ago. I actually know like most of his friends from Davison High School because Dan went to Davison. He graduated in '94.
Yep.
And my girlfriend at the time, she went to like when I was at Central all 4 years. My girlfriend was at Davison all 4 years, so I know all of like Dan's friends and all that. And while we're on the subject, real quick, I just want to say about my ex-girlfriend Jackie. Her mother passed away yesterday, Adeline. So I just want to say rest in peace to Adeline. And my heart goes out to the Borelski and Contreras family. But yeah, I know a lot of Dan's like best friends are like some of my good friends. But yeah, I met Dan. I think it was 2009.
2009, 2010. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it was.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. It was. I think it was late 2009. Yep. And Ray actually was friends with. Didn't know it at the time, but he was friends with a lot of a few of my best friends. My two best friends in high school. Ray played softball with them for the longest time. So we had a lot of mutual friends from the Davison area.
My cousin Jesse Clady was with me that day I met Dan, Brett.
Man, Jesse and Mark, man, we used to go out at lunchtime and at Potter, and we used to recreate the Mega Powers.
Oh yeah.
Remember Jesse would do the handshake with Randy and
yes,
Hulk. And,
yes.
And it was. Yeah. I think it was maybe you and Jesse were always on the same team, and it was me and Mark teaming up. But we would always, or Chris Herrick was out there, and man,
God, that was fun. I know exactly. Yeah, man, that was so much fun back then, man. We grew up in the best. That was the best time to grow up, man. I wouldn't change nothing about my childhood, man. People I grew up with, the way I grew up, man, that was the best, man.
It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed being at Potter. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And you have any other questions?
Yeah, we know your favorite band is Pearl Jam, right?
Mm-hmm.
What and I'm going to ask this of you too, Ray. But what is your favorite song a Pearl Jam song? And if not, what is your favorite song of all time?
It's impossible. I can't give a proper answer to that. I can give you like a million different songs that are great. The one that I mentioned on our podcast Monday is the song "Down" by Pearl Jam, and it has a personal meaning because it's related to me having Crohn's disease. I have a video on YouTube. I talk about this in the podcast that I put together back in 2005, and I put it up on YouTube. YouTube just 15 years old, and I checked on it a couple of years ago, and it had 50,000 views. And I was like, "How did this happen?" But I think it got tied into Pearl Jam and Mike McCready. So "Down" is one of my favorite songs. I'm a big fan of Jason Isbell. Great singer-songwriter. He came from the Drive-By Truckers, and there's a lot of trucker songs that I like. And I've been getting introduced to a lot of new music by doing this podcast with Aaron. So that's one of the cool things that's come out of this whole thing is just finding out new music. I feel like I got to a point where I just stopped seeking things out, and I hate that. Like you get middle age, and you're just like, I give up. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a favorite song.
Well, remind us.
I have a favorite song.
How many Pearl Jam concerts have you been to?
I know the answer to that. 14. No, he's been to 14.
It's 12. I think I missed.
Oh, dang it. Yeah. Dang it.
I had tickets.
I had it right.
I had tickets to see him in Nashville April 2nd, and they got postponed. So I still have the tickets. Hopefully they'll.
Lucky number 13.
I remember when Xavier, Brett asked Xavier, he said, yeah, I've now seen Jason Isbell more than I've seen Pearl Jam. He said, you know how many times? Xavier says something like, let me see, 189. Brent said, close, 12. That cracked me up. I have a favorite song, too. Before I answer that question, though, there was something, remember, Dan, when I was on Brett and Xavier's show a couple months ago?
Yep.
One of my questions that I prepared, I remember saying to myself, I can't wait to see Brent's facial expression when I ask him this question, or whatever it was. And it was about the Ryman, that arena that's in your hometown, the Ryman. As soon as I was asking a question, and then I said the Ryman, and Brett's face went like that, like, dang, Ray, okay, Ray. Man, I know that sounds silly and dumb. I cracked the first time I seen Brett's reaction. I knew he was going to have a reaction. I just caught him off guard with that one.
No, because that's it's such a sacred, it's a sacred institution in Nashville. Like people, if they play the Ryman, it's a big deal because that's Grand Ole Opry started there, and it's a church. There are church pews that you sit in when you go to the Ryman. There's like these stained glass windows. It's an otherworldly experience if you ever see a concert there.
It's like playing the Machine Shop in Flint.
Hey, I went to that place when it was a Mexican restaurant.
Wow, man, that was last time I've been there. See, I haven't been to the actual machine shop since it's been called that. And I didn't know that.
It was a Mexican restaurant before it was the machine shop.
Well, I know right before it was a machine shop, I remember it was a billiard hall. I remember it was Cutter's. Probably before it was Cutter's, it was probably a Mexican restaurant. But I didn't realize that was like people all over the country know about the machine shop. Because Derek Sweet told me when he was in the military, when he would tell people where he was from, like he said, a whole bunch of people said, "Oh yeah, that's where the machine shop is." So I didn't know that it was known like that.
Just last summer, there was some people going to a concert. It was a country artist, and they drove. I think I want to say they drove from Ohio. It was either Ohio or it was Tennessee to see these people, this group or this band at the machine shop. But yeah, it's a very popular place. People come from all over the country. Bands that they go to Flint only to play the machine shop.
I have to go there. I want to go there one time before I die or whatever. Man, I want to go there where there's like a heavy metal, like Iron Maiden type group or whatever there. I just want to experience that kind of atmosphere one time.
Well, that's what they mostly do. So
I'm always trying to get my cousin Jason to go because Jackal plays there all the time with Jesse James Dupree, and Jesse James Dupree is tied into Trimble down the road from me in Tennessee, and he's always come to Trimble for the Full Throttle Saloon Shine Distillery. So I'm always trying to get Jason. I'm like, go see Jesse James Dupree and Jackal. And Jason's like me now. He's a dad. He doesn't go anywhere. He stays at home.
So nothing wrong with that.
What was your favorite song, Ray? You were going to tell us your favorite song, and you got off on that tangent there.
I know I always do that, don't I? I always talk about something else instead of sticking to the subject. I think like my favorite individual song, because my favorite brand of music is like the New Jack Swing music, like the Jodeci's and Blackstreet and all them. So my favorite song is "Freak Me" by Silk. That's my favorite individual song. If I had if God told me, Ray, you can only listen to one song and nothing else, it would be that one.
We know what Ray has on his mind all the time, right?
I've been single for 3 years now, man. Yeah.
You know who I like? Yeah, I like SWV. Remember them?
Oh yeah. Me and Becky sings. Becky's a karaoke singer too. She sings SWV a lot.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, my music tastes are all over the board. I'm like one of those types that I like many different genres. If I like it, I listen to it. But my favorite song would probably have to be a 1A, 1B, both by the same artist, but 1A, 1B. And I'd have to say The River and The Dance by Garth Brooks. Those are my two all-time favorite songs.
Are you like really big into, do you like country music, or
I do.
You just like, so
Yep.
It's funny that you like, I swear I'm not trying to plug my podcast a lot, but the episode
plug away, man.
The episode we just taped this past weekend was about outlaw country, and coming from Michigan, I didn't know anything about country until I worked at a country station down here in Paducah, and I learned I had like a lesson every Friday and Saturday night from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. I was a DJ playing outlaw country songs, and my mind was blown at how awesome that music was.
Yep, I got into it. I got into country music back in right after high school for a little bit, but then went away from it, and then got back into it. Coincidentally, right around the time I started getting into NASCAR, because I had a buddy of mine that's both. He lives in Michigan. He's from the like Grand Blanc, Rankin area. Went to Swartz Creek, but he's like as redneck as they come. And he got me back into country music and got me into NASCAR. But yeah, my interests lie all over the board. I go to old school rap to metal to country to I even like some of the pop stuff. It just, if it's good, I like it.
I mean, I was a pop DJ
I have an interesting
20 years, so I mean, I know all these pop singles. I know way more about Britney Spears than I need to know, but that was my job. I had to look up all the information to talk about them.
I have an interesting country thing here to say. Now, I'm not really into country music. I don't dislike it like a lot of people do. I don't listen to country music. But Brent, I will say this: when I'm at the karaoke bar, if I'm trying to impress like a nice looking lady, I sing "Amazed" by Lone Star. That's one of my karaoke songs.
I heard that on the radio the other day.
Yeah.
So I love that song.
I was trying to go through because we'd mentioned it on Xavier, our podcast. I pulled out the prospectus, and Ray mentioned there was a picture of me in here where I'm like half naked.
Yeah. You went over that in your podcast, right? The picture in the shower where you're made to look like you're taking a shower.
I pulled the yearbook out to show Xavier and Mandy. I'm like, listen, I was fully there. It is.
He had shorts on. I had
shorts. Look at those pepperonis up there. So that was me in high school.
Oh, Brent was a stud in high school, man. He's being modest. Brent was a stud in high school. Tall, good looking.
So do you remember? And I was going to ask you at the back of our yearbook. I think all yearbooks do this when you're a senior. You leave your last will and testament. I was going back and looking through here. You didn't do one. Was there a reason why you didn't do one, or?
I would have done one, but I didn't know where to go or like how to do that stuff. But I don't have one. No.
Do you know what my future plans?
Jerry Lawler, I think, or something.
Look at that memory. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in our senior year, for my future plans after leaving high school was move to the great state of Tennessee and be a wrestling commentator with Jerry the King Lawler. I put that in writing in my yearbook.
Yeah. I remember reading that. I thought that was cool. Do you still like Stephen King? You still like Stephen King?
Yeah, not as hardcore as I used to. It's funny, Xavier's talking about he likes to write stories and things like that. And I was telling him how I used to write stories at Potter for the kids and horror stories and read them off. And we have that conversation all the time. So, yeah.
Oh, if you like Stephen King, I don't know if you've heard of this show, but I just watched the show like kind of when the lockdown first happened. It's one of the shows that me and my roommates watched was Outsider on HBO.
Oh, really? Yeah, I've heard some things about that.
That is Stephen King. It's a series written by Stephen King. So if you have not watched that, I highly recommend that if you're a Stephen King fan.
Well,
it's a great show.
As soon as this whole quarantine thing happened, the thing I thought of first was the miniseries The Stand with Stephen King, with I don't know if you've seen that or not. It came out in the mid-90s, but it was a big pandemic, and Don't Fear the Reaper and Blue Oyster Cult played. And I'm like, this is The Stand. We're living in The Stand right now.
When I think of Stephen King, there's two things I think of. I think of It.
Yeah.
Remember I think it was a movie or a book, It, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then I think of him on Creep Show. Remember that movie, Creep Show?
He had the moldy stuff that was growing on.
Yeah. And then he ended up blowing his head off or whatever. But I always think of him on that show.
Ray, have you seen
the guy? When I see him, I think of Brent. When I see him,
Ray, have you seen the new It movies? The remake? Those are pretty good too. If you haven't watched it,
let me ask you this: did you see the original miniseries from 1990, Dan?
The Stand?
No, It.
No, I'd never watched the original It. I just now watched the remakes of It.
It was a book, of course, and then they turned it into a miniseries in 1990 on ABC, and that's what I grew up with. So I loved it. Tim Curry as Pennywise, and I watched this new one. It just did not do it for me. I was let down. But that's, of course, I grew up on a different version of the movie.
Well, maybe it's good I didn't watch the original because I liked it. Maybe I'll go back and watch the original and compare notes between the two.
I'm turning into an old crusty man. It's like back in my day.
Right. Well, sometimes I'm the type of person where it's like, man, you just don't mess with classic movies, right? Like if someone were to remake, I know they kind of did, but the Karate Kid, right? Like you just don't mess with movies like that, right? They did it right the first time. Don't remake it, right?
Don't make me go off on a tangent on Point Break because I will get angry.
Because they remade Point Break, right?
Yeah. I don't acknowledge that.
Well, speaking of Tim Curry, I just heard Tim Curry's name mentioned. Okay, when I think of Tim Curry, I always think of him as Wadsworth on the movie Clue. Now, Brent, I know you've seen the movie Clue.
Yeah. Okay, I have, and that's one I've been wanting to show Xavier because I think he would love it.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite movie ever. I love that more than like Eddie Murphy and Chevy Chase movies. And Roadhouse. I love it better than Roadhouse.
Oh, Roadhouse is a good film.
But the thing about Clue, I did a post like a month ago about like going to a house and doing a mystery thing, and I did all the characters. I had you as Mr. Green. I had me as Professor Plum. I think I had Jack Little as Colonel Mustard, Tim Weston as Wadsworth, because Tim would be able to do the accent. And then I had Laura Ball as Miss Scarlet, Hope as Mrs. Peacock, and Jenny Perry as Mrs. White because of the black hair.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if there would be an Yvette character, but I would have, if we have to have an Yvette character, someone that looks like her, I picked Beth Miller to be Yvette.
Okay.
Would that be cool or what?
I think that would be awesome. Yeah. It's funny.
I casted that good.
It's funny how you imagine all these different scenarios using the real life people in your and that you grew up with. That is so cool.
And I'm gonna tell you what, that Clue House, those characters that I just mentioned, I can't handpick a better cast. That would be a perfect cast. The perfect cast.
And
that'd be fun too.
When they released that movie in theaters, if you were in New York, you got one ending. If you're in Los Angeles, you got a different ending. And they put all the endings together when they put it out on VHS. But
didn't know that. I didn't know.
Depending on where you saw the film in theaters, you got a different ending.
Oh, that's interesting.
See,
didn't know that.
That's the kind of stupid knowledge I have in my head.
That's not stupid knowledge. That's great knowledge. I think that's cool, man.
Just out of curiosity, because I got the yearbook out today. Do you know what I was voted most
likely to?
Yeah, basically, or what my title was our senior year.
Like most debonair.
Gotta be most likely to succeed. I would have voted you as.
I would have thought so too. My wife says I'm narcissistic. That may be right. No, I was most school spirit, which I guess maybe I can kind of see that.
Yeah, because you dressed up as a cheerleader, didn't you? One time, I mean, like at a Powder Puff game or something?
No, it was during assembly, and I think I got out there and
pep rally. Was it the pep rally?
Yeah, I'd do anything to kind of get the crowd going.
I can see that. The most likely to, if I was like voting for everybody, I would have just did one person for everything. But you definitely, I would have put as most likely to succeed.
No, they have
Tim Weston. Tim Weston, I would have had as most likely to be like a brain surgeon or something. And Aaron Searles would have had the best smile. Aaron Searles would have been voted best smile for me. Aaron Searles has the best smile of any human being I ever see in my life, next to me.
Hey, Aaron did get best smile.
She did?
Yeah.
Oh,
her both Marcellos and Aaron and Christian View. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Aaron, best smile I ever seen.
By the way, just as a side note, most likely to succeed, Sarah Robertson. Stephanie Jackson was in that class. Toy Williams, Michael Forward, Joey Grossman, and Ushumba Buford.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Dr. Buford now. You know that, don't you?
Well, then
he's a doctor.
I did not. So I guess he did.
In New York. He's in New York, too. Yep, Dr. Buford. Yep.
There you go. Trip down memory lane with the perspective.
Yeah, that's a good, yeah, Sarah, yeah, definitely, Stephanie, that's a good roll call.
Yeah.
That's a good roll call. I would have been probably just like most likely to be a mama's boy or something like that if they had a category like that. I don't know.
I doubt that would have been the category.
I'm underselling again. I'm sorry, Brent. I'm underselling again.
That's what Xavier does. A similar thing too, where he'll kind of like, he gets ahead of himself and like self-deprecating humor, and I'm like, stop, man, stop doing that because you are awesome. Like he was doing some art the other day, and he's like, oh, it's not as good. I'm like, it is way better than whatever I could do. So don't put yourself down for it.
Right.
So that's why I tell you, I said, just keep on keeping on, man.
I don't mean to do that. I think what I've been trying to work on, because like I said, growing up in a Mexican family, we're always talking about people and stuff. So what I try to do, I'll just instead of just talking bad about people, I'll just make fun of myself or something for people's amusement. I don't know.
I see what
that keeps me from talking bad about other people.
And that's a hard thing to do because, man, like I've been trying to work on myself, and that's one of the things is if somebody starts talking about something, I try to restrain, and then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, and then he did that, and then he did that, and I'm like, Brent, stop.
Let me give you a good example here. Brent, I'm going to give you a good example, perfect example. Dan can help me out with this one too. When I say like poking at myself, this is a perfect example. Dan is going to crack up when I bring this up. Okay, how you guys like told me earlier about my memory and sports memory and all that stuff, and you guys were complimenting me on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dan, tell Brent about when somebody mentioned carpentry skills. That's what I said. You remember the Davison football?
Yes. Oh, oh man, I'm trying to remember what it was.
You want me to tell him? You want me to tell him?
Just remind me what the kid said.
Okay. The kid. It was the kid that was sitting next to me.
Yeah.
He said, "I do this and this," and he said, "I have some carpentry skills." And I said, "Oh," I said, "Wow, you lay carpet for a living." I said, "That's just like his uncles." Yeah. And Dan was like, "No, Ray, that's not laying carpet."
He said carpentry. He's like, "Oh, you're pretty good at laying carpet. You lay down carpet." Like, no, Ray, it's woodworking.
Yeah, I say stuff like that, man, and I really don't mean to. I'm just goes to show you I'm just not that bright, man.
Hey,
we're not talking about the athletic field. I'm not that bright.
Don't say that. But another funny thing, Ray's always talking. He's a huge wrestling fan, and he's always talking about describing, into that like New Jack style of wrestling and stuff. And he's always trying to say surgical scalpel, and he always says surgical scaffold.
Well, because there's a lot of scaffold matches, Jim Cornette and everything, so I can understand. I can see that.
Yeah. I have said that too, but yeah, I find myself saying that kind of stuff a lot. I don't mean to though.
But you know what?
I'm learning.
Because George Costanza said it best. It's not a lie if you believe it.
Right.
And then, you know what? But I take wrestling advice. This is what I tell Xavier all the time. I said, if somebody's picking on you or whatever, I said, don't sell it. That's what they want you to do. I said, just pay them no mind. They want you to have a reaction. So like, they're always talking about selling and wrestling. And I'm always like, don't sell that stuff, man. Don't buy into it because that's what they want. They want you to get a reaction.
Right.
I use a lot of wrestling terms, and it's probably not.
I do too. Like yesterday, I cut myself on accident.
You bladed yourself, huh?
My roommate, he said, "What happened, man?" I said, "Man, I accidentally gave myself color, man." I said, "I didn't mean to."
The hard way.
That's a wrestling term, giving yourself color.
Yeah.
What I should have just said, I scratched myself, but instead I said, I accidentally gave myself color on accident. And that's a wrestling. I use those wrestling terms too, selling stuff, and I know what you mean.
That's what we grew up on.
Yep,
those great IMA shows, man. That was.
I
don't even recognize what is it, Federal Credit Union Arena or whatever.
Yep.
It's the IMA, man. Always been the IMA.
Always the
IMA Sports Arena.
Like it's
I haven't
knob,
I haven't watched. I haven't watched live wrestling probably coming close to 2 years now.
Oh,
and Jim Cornette said that there was a survey where he said if you take kids from the 80s that were diehard wrestling fans, he said today there are more people that don't watch it anymore than still watch it. He said that's how much viewership they're losing, man. And I never thought there would be a day that I didn't really watch wrestling, but it's kind of like the Dr. D. David Schultz Dark Side of the Ring, like when he slapped John Stossel. I know you watched that, didn't you, Brent?
Yeah, I watched that.
When he slapped that reporter, because back in those days, guys used to stick up for the business, and Dr. D would have been the last person I would have called a fake right in front of his face.
Yeah.
Like today's, like in today's wrestling. Like if you seen a wrestler at a bar and you told that guy that wrestler was fake, he'd probably agree with you now.
Well, the curtain.
But back in those days, no.
Yeah.
What did you think of that, Stossel? Remember we talked about that in my episode with Vince Strange, Dan.
Yep.
Brent, what did you think about that slap when he slapped him? Was he right for doing that? I agreed with it, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, and plus, Vince threw him under the bus because Vince told him to do it, and then he kind of got rid of him afterwards.
Yeah, I guess I have mixed feelings about it because on one side I can see why he would slap him because he felt very, very disrespected, and wasn't he told to stay in character, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I can see where it's like somebody kind of like you said, Brent. Somebody's calling you out or talking trash about your sport and your profession doesn't really give you the reason to lay him out. You know what I mean? So, but if it wasn't for, him being told, hey, stay in character and pushing it as much as he did, I think that's the reason why it happened like it did.
And
Well,
it was a big deal back when that happened. I remember that.
Well,
I remember that too.
Back then, it wasn't such a big deal putting your hands on somebody like that. But there's something like that nowadays, that dude would get canceled in a hurry.
Yeah.
Cowboy Bob Orton, I watched one of his shoot interviews, and he gave his version of the story on what happened there. And he said that that Dr. D and Stossel actually met before the hallway incident. And Dr. D told him, "You can ask me anything you want, just don't ask me if wrestling's fake." He said, "I don't care what you ask me." And according to Bob Orton, he said, Stossel said, "Okay, I won't answer that question." They get in the hallway. The first thing he says, "Oh, man, you're fake." Bam! And bam! So, I don't know. See, and what I didn't know about here's what I didn't know about Dr. D until the other day was he was trained by a guy named Herb Welch.
Yeah.
Herb Welch is a famous, he was like from the 30s, they used to call shoot wrestlers, Dan, where it was kind of like, they were kind of like wrestling for real, but they were kind of selling stuff just to make money, whatever. But he was like the last of like those shooters, and like those shoot wrestlers are like the toughest guys like in the world back then. And Dr. D was like one of the last people that was trained by somebody like that. So that's who Stossel called a fake, was somebody that was trained by him, got the crap beat out of him all the time when he was getting trained, couldn't walk, got his teeth knocked out, everything, stretched for months and months. That's the guy you called fake and a phony. So
yeah, the training that they went through, especially like with somebody like Vern Gagne, that he put all those guys
Yeah.
through, and Stu Hart.
Mhm.
If somebody calls
Stu
you
Hart,
fake
yep.
and you go through all that training, that's going to make you mad. I mean, that's really you're going to feel disrespected. So I can see where he's coming from. I did want to mention this because it's a anecdotal story. I don't know if you know this or not, but back when Mandy and I first started dating, she knew I was a huge wrestling fan because that's when like Stone Cold was taking off and all that. And our very first Valentine's Day that we celebrated together fell on St. Valentine's Day Massacre at the Pyramid in Memphis. And she bought me tickets to go see a pay-per-view in Memphis on our very first Valentine's Day. And she was so excited about that. And we went, and then she didn't realize that I had been to WrestleMania 3. I had been to all these. She thought that was my first wrestling pay-per-view. And she thought and I was like, "Oh no, hon, I've been to several wrestling events before, but I thank you so much for taking me to WWF. I appreciate that." So
yeah, you still got your green you still got your green Jake the Snake Roberts t-shirt, Brent?
Man,
I remember that shirt.
He signed it because he was at the car show at the IMA.
Yeah, I remember when he was there. I remember Big John Studd was there like 2 weeks before him. Yep, I met both of those guys. Yep, Jake the Snake.
I still have all my wrestle. I've got. I wish I could turn my camera on and show it, but I've got all my wrestling action figures, and I got some out in the garage, and I keep all that stuff.
Yeah, if you guys haven't watched wrestling lately, you should check it out just once. It's so weird. I showed my buddy the other day. It was a Monday Night Raw, right? Because they're doing all these shows still. They're doing them down in Orlando at their training facility with absolutely no crowd. And it's so
I seen that.
It's completely silent. It's the weirdest thing you could watch. It's like,
and I heard that you can hear them call their spots and everything because it's so quiet.
You can hear everything, every little noise, every little grunt noise. And I was like, I saw my buddy. I was like, man, how are they doing this? Because then they got to be careful because wrestlers talk to each other in their ear a lot about what they're going to do next and do this and do that. Like, and it just without the crowd noise, it'd be like, it's the same thing when the NCAA tournament got canceled, and it's like, this is going to be really weird to watch these basketball games with no crowd. Yeah. It's just so weird. It's just it's a different thing.
Yeah.
I want to get Brent's perspective on this because I have my opinion on this, but I want to hear what Brent has to say, and you too, Dan. I have my opinions on them doing them shows. It's not because they don't have an audience, but Vince McMahon throughout the years, even though he's a successful billionaire, okay, I'm not questioning his intelligence or nothing like that, but he does have a reputation of sometimes not really caring about the wrestlers.
Yeah.
And with everything like with mostly everything in the country being shut down for people's safeties and people wanting people to stay at home, Brent and Dan, Brent, will let you go first. What's your opinion on Vince keeping these guys working like that?
Well, to be honest with you, I was surprised that he finally relented and called off WrestleMania because that's his moneymaker.
No, they still had WrestleMania.
Well, no, yeah, but
I
I mean,
thought they still,
they
yeah.
still had it, but it wasn't in Tampa at
Oh,
the
yeah.
big, the
Yeah,
big
yeah.
Oh,
stadium.
yeah, right.
And he
It was
held out
done
for a
with no
long
crowd.
time.
Yep.
But I mean, I'm not a businessman. I'm not a CEO. I get a paycheck from somebody else. So it's easy for me to sit here and criticize and say things like that. When you're in charge of a business or a company, you're going to have a different perspective because every night you go to sleep, you're like, how am I going to make payroll? And I'm not saying Vince does that because he's a billionaire, but I can kind of, that's the mentality I think he probably has. Because they did just lay off a whole bunch of people at WWE.
Yeah.
And the XFL, I think, is canceled now. So
Yep, end of the XFL for a second
It's,
time.
it's just, yeah. Well, with me, it's like, because I think, when they do these shows, I think they say there's like a total of like 50 or 55 people in the building total or whatever like that. And between those 50 people, you like when they leave the training center, you don't know where they're going or where they've been. Like, let me give you a perfect example. Like, I've been at my house and I've been here. I wouldn't even fathom the idea of going over to Brent's house and visiting him, putting him in danger like that. So that putting them guys to work like that when every other sport in the world basically is shut down, and Vince has these guys working. I don't know if I like that idea.
he's always been that way, though. He marches to the beat of his own drummer. That's just him.
Yeah, that plays into my answer. What I was going to say is like, I'm really surprised that they didn't shut down for a while. Like, I know WrestleMania was right around the corner, but you said it, the NBA shut down, the MLB shut down. It'd be a different story if wrestling had shut down and then sort of around this time, bring everyone back, make sure everyone's tested, make sure everybody's staying in the same place, quarantined in a facility there by the arena where you don't have any exposure to the outside world. But they have not stopped. And I really don't agree with that. I mean, if the NBA is going to do it and the MLB is going to do it, I think wrestling shouldn't have do it too. Because unless there's super control in these athletes, like, you don't know where they're going when they're not working, and they take going here, going there. And all it takes, just like the NBA, all it takes is one person to test positive, and then you have a problem on your hands.
Yeah.
But this is the same guy that, he calls them independent contractors, but he doesn't follow those same independent contractor rules. There's no health care. So he does what he wants to do.
I have a question. I have a question for Brent again. It's wrestling. It pertains to wrestling. Now, this is just an opinion, okay? I want Brent's honest opinion. If we could turn back the hands of time to, like, go back to when we were teenagers or whatever. Let's say that I never played any sports, like, basketball, football, tennis, all the sports that I played. Let's say that I had a mindset like, Brent, I'm going to try my best to be a professional wrestler someday, and say I went through the training, and say my focus was to be a wrestler, and let's say I made it and wrestled for a long time. Would I have been a good heel? Like, like in character? I wouldn't have been like an a-hole in real life. But because I've always wanted to be a heel in wrestling.
I think you could pull it off for sure. I think, I could see that.
I definitely see that.
Yeah.
I would love to be a heel.
I don't see you as a.
I think
as
Dan
hero.
probably could see that more than I can.
Yes, your personality and the way that you can turn on a certain part of your personality, you'd definitely be a heel. You'd be kind of like that, like a Razor Ramon, Kevin Nash type heel.
My Uncle Eddie told me when Dan and I had our wrestling podcast with Vince Strange, my uncle, because he always told me that I should have been a wrestler. He said, Ray, you should have been a wrestler. You sound like one, you look like one, you act like one, you think that you're one. He said, man, when I watched that podcast with your buddy, when you guys are talking about wrestling, he said, you were getting so fired up. He said, I thought you were going to end up slugging him, man. He said, that's the real Ray right there, man.
I tell you, my favorite times growing up were 6:05 watching the from that little studio down in Atlanta, TBS shows.
Saturday night, WCW Saturday night. Yeah.
Well, it was when it's NWA Crockett stuff. That was my favorite.
Yeah. Jim Crockett Promotions.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
Yeah, Ray. I definitely see you taking a rock style arc in wrestling, where you start off as a heel, but maybe transition into
Yes,
the hero
into a
down-
face.
down-
Yes.
Yeah, into a face. Down
If
the
I
road.
was ever to be a good guy, I'd want to be a bad guy first.
Yeah.
And then
Not-
turn into a yeah.
Not,
Yeah, I agree
not-
with that.
Not Hulk Hogan, where you start off as a face and turn
No,
to a heel, then
no.
back to a face. Yeah.
No.
And I
no,
never
wouldn't want to be.
I never rooted for Hogan. I went to WrestleMania 3 and I was rooting for Andre the whole time. So I never bought into Hogan.
Dan, did you go to WrestleMania 3?
No.
I was there too.
I watched it, but I didn't go to it. Watched
Took
it
us
on
2
TV.
hours to get out of the parking lot. I'll never forget that.
Did you sit at the top, Brent, like I did?
Tippy top. I barely remember anything, but I just know I was there. There was a video a couple of years ago of somebody on a motorcycle riding through the Silver Dome before it all came down. It was the coolest thing ever.
Really?
Yeah, it's probably still on YouTube somewhere.
Do you have a favorite wrestler, Brent?
What?
I'm trying to think. I know people trash him all the time, but when I was a kid, Ultimate Warrior was awesome. I'm sorry. When he ran down to the ring, like, I know it's fashionable to bash on Warrior now, but like, he was flipping awesome when I was growing up. I love, and then Dr. D, Stephen Williams, like him and Terry Gordy, those guys are awesome.
Yeah, there's a cool
Bam Gordy.
There's a cool meme I seen where like somebody posted like when the bars reopen after the coronavirus or after the lockdown, and it's the shot of the Ultimate Warrior running full speed to the ring, and then it's playing on a loop. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite wrestler back then was back in the 80s was Andre the Giant and Roddy Piper. I'm talking about Piper like when Ace Bob Orton was his bodyguard. Roddy Piper. Him and Andre were my favorite wrestlers back then.
Yeah.
You know, I had heard I was watching a shoot interview one time, and they were talking about something that like an event that happened backstage at the IMA, and I never knew this, and I was probably at the show, but apparently Adrian Adonis was taking some liberties with Dan Spivey, and I guess when they got back,
Danny Spivey, I heard that.
Spivey knocked him out.
I saw Danny Spivey talking about that, and Danny Spivey had talked about that. He had a boxing background, and I didn't know he had a boxing background. Yeah, I heard that too. That's Danny Spivey sitting there in a chair outside. Looks like he's at his house. I saw that same shoot interview. Yep, knocked him out at the IMA. Yep, he said Flint, Michigan too on his interview.
That's what made my ears perk up. But yeah, we still get. I mean, wrestling. I don't know how it is up north, but and in Texas, but here they still have these little small shows where like a big. Lawler will come in, or somebody, a big name will come, and then they got the independent, local guys that'll wrestle. But
yeah, I think that happens all over the country.
Yeah.
I was a big fan. I was the most into wrestling during the Attitude Era of wrestling. So like my favorite wrestlers are Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. Like I loved that rivalry between the two of them. And then with Stone Cold and The Rock and Generation X, that was my favorite time of wrestling.
Yeah, with that partnership when Austin and Pillman were together, the Hollywood Blondes, that was some good wrestling back then too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Rock and Stone Cold, man, those matches are some of the greatest of all time. I always wanted Austin to just kill The Rock, like not literally kill him, but The Rock just didn't appeal to me for some reason. I might be the only person in the world that'll say that. My Uncle Eddie, once again, will slap me in the head because that's his favorite wrestler. But
yeah,
I just wanted him to beat the bejesus out of The Rock every time they squared off.
I couldn't
stand The Rock.
His father just passed, and he did the eulogy, and I watched that eulogy on YouTube. And if you watch that and you don't get choked up, then something's wrong with you, man, because it was a beautiful tribute to Rocky Johnson.
Yeah, and I think
I'm gonna have to watch that.
I believe his oldest daughter, one of his daughters, is an aspiring wrestler now.
Really?
Yeah.
One of whose daughters? The Rock's daughter?
Yeah, Dwayne Johnson's one of his.
Oh,
daughters.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
I could be
that's cool.
mistaken,
She's got that Samoan blood.
That somewhere. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Brent, I know you watch a lot of shoot interviews like I do. Have you heard the stories like about Haku, like how tough he was?
Like everybody always cites Haku and they say that he's just like a teddy bear, but
they say he's the nicest guy you'll ever meet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they said that like when the boys were on the road, I think the Honky Tonk Man said this too. He said, we could never figure this out. He said, anytime that Haku got into a situation at a bar, he said, people would come up to our table and for some reason point out Haku and try him for some reason. The stories about him,
Yeah.
Harley Race and who else? Paul Orndorff. What he did to Vader was a good story. I like hearing about those tough guy stories too, man. I love those stories.
And that's the I'm somewhat embarrassed. People always ask me, they're like, "What's your favorite podcast?" And I'm like, something to wrestle with Bruce Pritchard and the Eric Bischoff 83 weeks. I mean, they're all wrestling podcasts because I like hearing the stories about wrestling when I grew up.
I literally listen to those the ones that I listen to those every night. Conrad Thompson, his voice is a little annoying because he kind of sounds like a fake imitation of Jim Ross, but no, very knowledgeable, great stories. 83 weeks with Bischoff. Something to wrestle. Yeah, I watch all that stuff. Cornette. I don't know how many podcast interviews he's done. That guy knows everything about wrestling, but I listen to those every day, man. It's real intriguing.
I was talking to my friend Aaron about podcasting and something that we didn't really consider because we're watching our numbers as downloads and things like that. But something I didn't even really consider is that I don't listen to the podcasts that I normally listen to because I'm not commuting anymore. I'm at home, and so I'm sure that podcasts like you guys and ours, the numbers are going to be kind of skewed because people aren't in their cars traveling as much anymore. So maybe it's a weird time.
Yeah, very weird.
Yeah, I never thought of that. Well, for me personally, it seems like I've been watching podcasts more now though since I've been home because I really don't have nothing else to do. Like if you're a person that's like following the rules and like wanting to stay home to be safe, that's what keeps me sane is watching these podcasts.
Yeah.
Your podcast or both podcasts you have, I watch our reruns of me and Dan, and that keeps my sanity.
Yeah, Ray doesn't watch too much TV, so he's the type more apt to get on YouTube and watch a bunch of podcasts. Where like I'm trying to binge the most current series on Netflix or something like that. And then
and that's the thing. Like with Xavier, we do a video recording and we put it on YouTube. We don't do that with other ones because we've just got. I mean, it like Dan, you can attest to it. I mean, there's a lot of back end stuff that's work, and it's like. Man, I'm tired.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to go into it. And Ray and I have had this conversation. He's like, oh, we'll just do this. We'll just edit that out, or we'll just edit this. And I was like, Ray, you don't understand. There's like video and audio have to sync together, and you can't just say, oh, we'll edit that because it's a pain in the freaking ass,
Yeah, and then I got to find pictures to cover up the edit or video to cover something up, and then and I got to re-render it. So you got to love.
What about Dan, what about it was the day we did our show at Sharky's. Remember that? Remember the issue I had with the location of where you put the table?
Yeah.
Tell Brett that one. Brett that one. I was in rare form this day, Brett.
So one thing I always try to get in Ray, and Ray is like Ray's like a dog, like squirrel, right? He can't like if something is in his peripheral. I don't know if it's like his mentality, like he's always on guard, or if it's just focus. But like we were doing an episode at Sharky's, and we wanted to do it in a certain area of the bar, a back area where they have all the games and stuff. And I went and scouted out, and I was like, there's just no good place to put the table and the lighting and all that kind of stuff. So out in the front part, there's a small wall that they have the Sharky's logo on the table, and they have some jerseys hanging. It was a perfect spot, but it was right next to the entrance to where you go back into that game room, and then the door to come in was right next to that. And that was like his first complaint. He's like, man, some knucklehead's going to come walking up here, and I'm not going to be, I know I'm going to have to say something. And I was like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Like, I'll make sure that doesn't happen. And then sure enough, some guy comes in the door, and he comes back, and he was going to walk back into the game room, and he just stops, and he just looks like, oh, hey, what are you guys doing? Didn't say anything. He just stopped and looked. And
yeah, but he was a little too close to Fred, though. He was too close to him.
He was close, but he not on purpose. It's a natural way to go into the door, right? And Fred Jackson, he looks and glances up, and Ray looks and like just freezes on him. It's like, what are you looking at? It's like, Ray, you just gotta blind him out. Just pretend he's not there and keep going. Let stuff like that draw your attention.
And it is
Yeah, but then I
hard
looked at Dan. I said, I told you this was going to happen, man. I said, I told you.
and it's tough because like I'm sitting here doing a podcast, and when I do my podcast, I've got like a laptop open, I got show notes, and then I'm in the middle of a thought, and Leroy the dog starts barking, and he's throwing my concentration off. So yeah, you got to multitask when you do these things.
Yeah.
We do. If we had a blooper reel from like our previous 16 episodes, that would be a funny blooper reel.
If I were Dan, I'm sure I would have one somewhere.
I've got all the clips. I just got to put it together. But yeah, we tried to get a studio right from the get-go, but that costs money, and so we had the idea of doing it at different bars, and that's something you got to run into. You do it in public spaces, and it wasn't the first time we had somebody walk up in a certain way and catch Ray's eye, and it's just the risk you take when you do it in a public place like that.
And that was actually a pretty cool idea, because normally you see people, and I mean that's the normal way of doing it, is in a studio, but to take it out the way you guys did, that was really kind of innovative and original. I thought that was a really cool idea to get out amongst, and that's a way to expose your show too.
Yeah, sometimes it gets to be a challenge because not every bar has the same lighting, and
right.
Those are the challenges like that. We did an episode at Clio Roadhouse, a Michigan Ohio State episode, and I had to scramble last minute because we showed up, and I trusted Ray with scouting out the location. He's like, oh yeah, it's fine, lighting is fine, and we get there and it's like too dark because they have I guess maybe they had different lights on or whatever, but it's just way too dark. So I had to scramble and go to the store and buy a light and try to rig up enough light to make it visible. And we got it done, but it was a challenge. But that's the challenge with that, is like you never know what kind of situation you go into. So we got our favorite places that we were comfortable with, and we kind of rotated between those.
And the podcast that I do now, the very first episode, Aaron and I did together in the same studio. But ever since then, we do it like this. He calls me on FaceTime, and I record the audio on my end, and he records the audio on his end, and then he syncs it all together. So we just do it on video chats, and it's really worked out well. I think this is the way that things are kind of going.
Yeah. Yep.
Unfortunately.
It does play into our current situation now with me being here in Texas and Ray in Michigan. So, we have the possibility to continue this in this format even after the lockdown is lifted.
And I wanted to let Brent know.
I'm glad you guys decided to do this, because I really enjoyed what you guys were doing, and I hated to see it kind of come to like a hiatus. So I'm glad that you were able to figure out a way to move forward with it. And I'm incredibly humbled and honored to be able to be on today. So kudos to you guys for figuring out a way to move forward with this, man.
The way we're going to do it now, it's going to be like the same way we do other shows, Brent. But I think what you will like about the way we're doing our show now, I mean, we're still going to have some sports topics, but we're going to be doing shows where we might not talk about sports at all. Like Dan and I talked about, like maybe like high school days, talking about like maybe like past relationships, having your heart broken or whatever. We're gonna do stuff like that too. Yeah. So it won't be just sports only, but it'll be like all kinds of different topics.
Yeah, good mix of sports and real life topics.
Well, that's what we do. Yeah. We have specific things that we're going to talk about on our music podcast, but then we always find ourselves going off on tangents, and then we start telling personal stories and things like that. So I think it's a good idea to have a starting point, and then you can just kind of go wherever you want to go with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say a couple more things while we finish up here. I'm going to finish on two kind of topics here. First one is I'm going to take your side on a very, very important topic, Brent, and say that pineapple absolutely does belong on pizza.
I appreciate that.
Hawaiian pizza is one of my favorites.
Fired. Dan, you're fired. You're fired.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Fired.
Hawaiian's one of my favorite pizzas. I order pineapple with like other things as well. So yes, absolutely does belong on pizza.
I mean, growing up, Hungry Howie's, I used to get pineapple pizza all the time.
Yep.
I'm not with you guys on that. No. Pineapple.
And
but the thing is, though, I still eat it. Though when I eat it, though, I like it. But it just don't. But it still don't sound right.
I don't like it, but I still eat it.
Sometimes you don't have a choice, you know.
And the second thing I want to say is like, thank you for, as a dad, thank you for making us feel like such inadequate dads. When you did that podcast with, when you made that CD for Xavier, like that, I think that should have got you the Dad of the Millennia Award.
And
Like that's such an awesome thing to do for your kid, and it's like, why didn't I think of that?
I can't take credit for that. I have to take, I have to blame, and I have to give credit to the Cats in the Cradle, Harry Chapin, because every time I hear that stupid song, or Xavier is like, "Hey, you want to go do this?" I'm like, "Cats in the Cradle." One day I'm going to wish I did that, you know. So it's kind of where I drew inspiration from.
For those who don't know, why don't you go ahead and explain like what you did?
So a couple of weeks before Xavier was born in 2006. I wanted to be able to share music with him because music was something that obviously we've talked about here today that I love. So I went to each one of my family members and I said, I want you to give me one song that when Xavier hears it, he is reminded of you. It can be a song and being an artist, so that when he's driving down the road when he's 46 years old and he hears Born to Run, I want him to think of Jody Hinson. Or if he hears Yellow Ledbetter, I want him to think of Jeremy Hinson. Or sorry, see, there's Leroy barking back there now. But I wanted him to have an instant connection with every member of the family. So everybody submitted their song picks, and I compiled it into a CD, and I held on to it until December. Xavier turned 13 in December, and I thought he's probably at the age where he'll be able to understand it, and he'll be able to kind of grasp the gravity of it. And so I gave it to him. And the funny part is, after that episode ended, we turned on Cats in the Cradle and we listened to it together, just me and him. And it clicked with him because we both broke down and we cried because he listened to the song lyrics, and it touched him. And I think he kind of understood how powerful music is. So, thank you guys. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. And wasn't it, correct me if I'm wrong, was it 13 tracks also for his 13th birthday?
It originally started out to be just one CD, but I think it was over 20 songs after we finally finished. Yeah.
Okay.
Because everybody contributed, and then Mandy, I got to do a couple of different songs too.
Yeah, that was such an awesome episode. I don't cry at all, but I definitely got a little choked up watching that with you.
I knew that was going to be a hard one. It was because it's something that you'd built up over all these years, and you finally get to unveil it. And there's not many things that would ever come between. I mean, that's Xavier's. He's my reason in life.
Very awesome. Very awesome. And I'm going to tell everybody out there too, if you haven't seen it yet, we've talked about it before, but Conversations with Myself, one of the podcasts that you do, if you have not seen it, go check it out. I absolutely love it. I loved it from the second I started watching it. Can't wait for another episode to come out. As soon as I saw it, I went to my kids and I was like, man, we should do something like this. What can we do to connect like that? Because I think it's an awesome way to connect with your kids and to relate between generations like that. It's such an awesome thing. And you guys do a really good job.
I love it that other people watch it and they get something out of it. When we started it, I literally just did it so I could have something that Xavier could have when he's 50 years old. And who knows if YouTube will be around, but I'll have all the videos that he can look at. He can look back and see what his dad said.
Absolutely.
I hope my primary reason.
I hope he continues. At whatever point Conversations with Myself comes to an end, if it ever does, I really hope Xavier, goes on to do something similar because he's really got the right personality for it.
That's one thing that I don't worry about. I know he'll be all right in life. As a dad, I'm scared that he has to go out into the world, but I want to make sure that I prepare him for the world. So I think he'll be all right.
Very awesome.
But thank you guys.
I have a question. Brent, do you have any cool, refreshing Mountain Dew today, Brent?
I bought one just for this show. My other thing that I'm known for is bubble tape. I go through bubble tape.
Oh, yeah, man. That's good stuff. Dan, you look like Joe Rogan today, Dan.
Joe Rogan? Yeah.
You look like Joe Rogan today for some reason.
Thanks.
So, look like you could be his little wimpy brother or something.
Little? Well, Joe's shorter than me, but he's a lot more muscular than me, I think.
Well, I mean, he's a lot older than you are, isn't he?
I don't know. I don't know.
Probably
I don't think
our age,
so.
a little bit older, yeah.
I think he's around mid
yeah.
40s, 50s, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Brent, man, we want you to come back on the show whenever you want, man. Because like on our other shows, we've had return guests two, 3 or 4 times. Like Steve Lovell's been on our show like 4 times. So you're more welcome to. I mean, you can whenever you want, man. You just let me know, and I love having you on here.
Like I said, I am humbled and honored that you guys had me on today, and I appreciate it. I listened to y'all's podcast, and I enjoy it. And the things like that Randy episode, I learned so many things that I didn't know. And like Randy is a friend. Like I haven't talked to him in a while, but like going to high school, I didn't even know these stories. So that's the cool thing about podcasts is that you get to learn some things that you didn't know. And it's awesome that you guys started this up and kept going and started doing it on YouTube. And so kudos to you guys and keep on keeping on.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Dan, I didn't say one cuss word in over 2 hours.
Yeah, you must. What do you got the crown roller bag sitting beside you?
No, that's the Brent Hinson factor, man. The Brent Hinson factor. I didn't even come close to cussing today.
I am not I'm not a perfect person.
You are.
I'm a screw up just like everybody else.
Oh, you're not.
I'm going to say I'm surprised Ray's not in a 3-piece suit right now because I don't know if you know this about Ray, but and you guys talked about it on your podcast, but Ray has this kind of tell. The more he respects you, the nicer he dress. Whenever we had guests that he has a ton of admiration or respect for, he's always dressed to the nines. Like you see it in the Joe Ufinger show where he's got that nice shirt on. I think he bought that shirt brand new just for that episode. And he's got his leather Kango on. You can tell he dresses up. That's like how he shows respect.
I warned him ahead of time. I wore Ric Flair today because of wrestling, but I kind of felt bad. I was like, Ray's talking about dressing up when he comes and sees me, and then I'm wearing a Ric Flair shirt. But this was a reason because of our childhood.
Yeah, it reminded me because I just rewatched that episode that Ray was on today in preparation for the show, and I remember in the show he talked about how when he came back to town, he wanted to make sure he was dressed up nice when he came back to town.
He was, man. He was dressed to the nines.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna say one last thing about Brent. I don't know who came up with that term. Nice guys finish last, but whoever came up with that term, that person never met Brent Hinson. So that's that's my parting shot for Brent.
Oh, man, I appreciate that. And like I said, I'm a screw up just like anybody else, but
Stop underselling yourself, Brent Hinson.
I can't get out of this. I am forgiven. That's the main thing that I get across. So I'm working on being a better person every day. And Mandy will tell you, I'm not always the best person. So, but each day I get up, I try to keep working at it. And so that's my parting words is just keep on keeping on.
Okay. All right.
Dan, any parting words, Dan?
No, this has been awesome. It was a pleasure to meet Brent and finally do this with him. After watching his podcast for so long, I was really looking forward to this, and the conversation did not disappoint by any means. And make sure you tell Xavier we say hey.
And he just got Animal Crossing on Switch. That's what he's been doing the past couple of days.
So we look forward to seeing the next episode. So everybody go check out Crossing the Streams, Conversations with Myself. You're sure to be entertained.
Thank you guys so much.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Brent.
That was awesome. Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
I appreciate it. It was a great conversation, man. I appreciate you having me on. I had a lot of fun.
Okay. No worries.
Okay, we'll have you back. We're going to have him back.
All right.